Well, Joe Biden reaffirmed his support of Ukraine in a call today with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukraine's president says they had a great conversation, and he thanked Biden for supporting the Ukrainian people. Zelensky also said that he and Biden discussed really the next steps on a path to victory against Russia. This, as the Russia-Ukraine war has surpassed the 6-month mark, and Ukrainians are commemorating their independence. Joining us now to discuss this is economist, political strategist, former Navy intelligence officer, and my friend, who, like everybody else on this show, we go way back. Greta, Jonathan Gilliam, and John Jordan. We've known each other forever. Brother, thanks for coming on. Look, we've talked about Ukraine, even when I was in Ukraine covering the war, both the first time I was there in March and April, and then this last time throughout July, basically spending my summer vacation there. Zelensky says he had a great conversation with President Biden, talking about the next steps on a path to victory against Russia. What do you think that'll look like?
Well, right now it's a grinding, protracted war with no real end in sight. The Ukrainian strategy is right now is to hollow out the Russian military and inflict such casualties are high enough to a point where perhaps there's either a collapse of the Russian army or a political change in Moscow. Recently, John, I got to tell you, we're not being told everything about what we're shipping to Ukraine. Right now, we're talking about, the Highmars systems, the M31 rockets is about 40 miles in range. And the administration has denied shipping the ATACMS, which is the longer range rocket for the Highmars, to the Ukrainians. But it looks like the Ukrainians are getting the ATACMS from us. I mean, the raid on Saki, for example, there's no other explanation. I did the math on this, the energy transfer on the craters. It matches exactly the payload on an ATACMS missile. The Ukrainians don't have a system that can do it. And the Ukrainian and Russian narrative that it was special forces and saboteurs just don't match up with the size of the craters, the nature of the damage, and the fact that it was done in the middle of the day on a weekday.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, and it's a really important point, because with the Highmars, we know, which is the high mobility artillery rocket systems, that this is really changing the ability of the Ukrainians to reach deep into, and across the Russian lines, not just across the front lines, a couple miles into Russian-controlled territory, but pretty deep into the territory. But these, exactly what you were mentioning, can go even further than that, striking, having pretty far reach. I think they can go as far as, correct me if I'm wrong, anywhere like up to 150 miles or more. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, that's open source, and that's my understanding as well. The M31, the standard Highmars rocket, for example, if every Highmars system, and there's 16 of them, fired twice a day, they would go through 5,800 rockets a month. And the manufacturer, Lockheed Martin, only can produce about 9,000 a year. So there's a finite quantity. We have stated we don't want to upset the Russians by giving the Ukrainians a longer range system. We don't want to escalate is the term. But secretly under the down low, almost certainly we are giving it to them because we can't give the Ukrainians a sufficient number of the standard version. And this because there's too many unexplained explosions, especially in that airbase in Crimea, where there is no other explanation than the longer range ATACMS version of the rocket, which I'm sure that we've given just a small number of which. And we won't admit it, the Ukrainians won't admit it, and the Russians know it, and they don't want to talk about it either. But that's what's going on. There's no other explanation.
Yeah, one of the things that I heard, particularly this last time when I was in Ukraine, is the gratitude from the soldiers literally on the front lines, the M777 battery that we spent time with, we were embedded with literally a mile and a half from the front lines. The gratitude towards America for providing the assistance, the financial, the military assistance, the weapons, but also the need for more heavy weapons, more ammunition, more guns even for the fighters on the front line. John, do we even have the ability to continue to provide this weaponry to sustain the Ukrainian front lines? And for how long can America continue to do that?
Yeah, maybe that's the real question: is can we continue to supply these high-tech weapons in sufficient numbers? The thing is, the administration's strategy, I think, is to drag this out and force both sides to the peace table. So the administration just wants to keep sending equipment, just enough to keep it going, but isn't really committed to winning the fight and ending it quickly because their fear of the Russians. Putin has Biden completely intimidated here. Were the administration to send sufficient armaments to end this fight, we could probably end it cheaper in terms of lives and equipment than this protracted strategy that we're having now, which also puts American armed forces at risk because there's only a finite quantity of these munitions. And absent a complete strategy, we're just going to deplete these stocks to the point where we're putting our own troops at risk.
Real quick, John, we got about 30 seconds left. I wish we had longer, but the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, this supplies, it's the largest, I believe, in Europe. It's under Russian control in the south. There's intense fighting around it, obviously. Now, Russia is threatening to basically cut it off from the Ukrainian power grid. This is coming up on not only the fall, but winter, and winter can be pretty harsh in Ukraine, as I experienced. John, what's the threat? I mean, how dangerous is this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, a quick tip of the hat to you. You're one of the only people on cable news that I know of that's really smelled the smell and smelled the smoke, not only in Ukraine for a protracted period of time, not just a visit, but for quite a while, and you've done the Middle East too. What the Russians are doing here is using this power plant as a base of operations because they know the Ukrainians are loath to hit it. Now, the Russians have actually already disconnected the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant from the Ukrainian grid and are working to try to transform it to attach it to the Russian grid, which is configured differently. But right now, there's 6 of those 10 reactors are going, and were there to be a significant missile strike or bomb hit it, it could expose the core of those 6 operational reactors inside the plant. And that would result potentially into a Chernobyl-type accident. Because remember, the test that went wrong in Chernobyl resulted in an explosion, but the real damage came from the fires and the exposed core. And that could easily be replicated here. And both sides know that. Both sides are trying to take advantage of it and use it as to a degree as a political football.
Wow. Dangerous times indeed. John Jordan, we're going to leave it there. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, my friend.